What is the definition of hard stuck? Have you ever felt like you could not progress in Overwatch or really anything else in life no matter what you did? Are you really at the mercy of your mentality? And honestly, how important is mental toughness and how do you develop mental toughness? This is going to be more of a surface level discussion on a lot of these topics, but I think there's a really important experience that I had with this most recently that I think is going to provide a little bit of insight as to exactly how you approach these things, especially in the realm of video games. For those of you guys that don't know, I've been an Overwatch coach specifically for a long time, even dabbling in Marvel Rivals coaching, but I've honestly been coaching for a long time. And one of the biggest things that I've learned with coaching is that keeping people's mentality on doing exactly what they have in front of them, not getting distracted with the very high highs or the very, very low lows of a lot of the process of learning things. See, that's really key to actually learning anything. Staying in the moment, enjoying the process, consistency, and developing good habits are all important aspects of coaching and learning anything. And so I decided to experiment with something. You see, I've succeeded from climbing from bronze to grandmaster in Overwatch. It was my first-person shooter, and while it took a long time to develop the mechanics and the understanding and the execution, I was able to do so successfully from 2017 to 2018. It took me just over a year. I've also survived a lot of difficult financial, career, and relationship moments like everyone else, and because of that, I feel like I've developed a fairly strong competitive mentality. So the question is how far would that competitive mentality carry me? This is season 14. There's a brand new dive tank character with Hazard, a character that I really clicked well with me, so it's a perfect time to test my mental toughness theory. See, my theory was this: if I've really trained myself to have great mental toughness, especially if it's a character I'm familiar with, okay, cat feeder's gone off. Especially if it's a character that I am relatively familiar with, then it should be no problem for me to just grit my teeth and hard grind all the way up to Masters. This is something that I do at every new character or rework that comes out, so that I'm able to coach the micro a little bit better. Just hard grind the character to Masters, no problem. Done it many, many times before. The question is how much of my tough mindset was a reflection of my habits versus just my strong mentality. When I climbed from bronze to grandmaster, it wasn't just developing a competitive mindset, it was also developing strong habits. Playing the same time basically every day, playing basically every day, a strong warm-up routine, a strong hero pool, turning off and not joining team chat or team voice if it was toxic. The question is what if I threw all of those out the window with Hazard? Everything that I knew that I shouldn't do, I did, and everything I know that I should do, I didn't. Basically doing everything that I teach others not to do. This hero was right up my alley, surely everything would be fine. What purposeful mistakes did I make? Well, there were many of them. I wasn't sleeping as well. I was relatively high stress. It was the holidays after all. I queued for hours, then I wouldn't play for a few days, 4 or 5 hour play sessions, and I would too busy and wouldn't play for a couple of days. I didn't take breaks between games. I didn't warm up. I left team chat on, so all the trash talk and toxicity was there at all times. And when things went poorly, I would grit my teeth to try to prove myself that I could overcome it. I could just win. I could just perform. I could just force myself to execute no matter how tired, frustrated, or distracted I was. And the results kind of speak for themselves. I actually didn't make any progress in rank whatsoever for my placement around Diamond 4, and I actually got worse to the point where I was actually sort of hard stuck with an overtuned character, dropping down to Diamond 5 even briefly. In hindsight now, I would actually realize that I oftentimes during these games would make good choices. You see, I didn't learn about the strategy of the character. I just failed to consistently execute. And often I just made horrible decisions under pressure. This went on for nearly 20 hours of play over the course of 2 weeks, bouncing between Diamond 4 and Diamond 3. And as the experiment finally finished its course, the really scary thing for me is that I really didn't want to change. I'd done the experiment for as long as I planned to do for the content piece, but I really wanted to prove myself strong enough to bend it to my will. I didn't want to stop. I wasn't even fully aware of my lack of self-awareness of all the things that I was doing wrong in the moment. I honestly had to break it just by thinking of the project that I was going to do for content, that I need to stick with my goals with that. It wasn't because I really wanted to rank up. I still had this feeling of like, if I really could, I could actually do it. It was a really scary reminder of that we're not always good judges of our effort and focus, and we often tend to be pretty myopic in our understanding of strength. It honestly takes a lot of maturity, wisdom, and strength to know your own limitations. We also hilariously misunderstand willpower. Whenever we think of willpower, we think of people that are strong in the moment, but we're often personally too weak to change our approach. Real strength comes with changing your approach, changing your habits, not just gritting your teeth. Where is everybody? Where was everybody? Where did they go? So, in the interest of the content, in the interest of the project, despite my not wanting to do it, I flipped the script. I went back and did the things that I knew that I should have done. I played 2 hours a day. I warmed up. I took breaks. I turned off team chat when I got toxic. I took better care of my sleep, and I went on a 25-3 tear right into Masters with ease, honestly dominating the lobbies all the way up until the Masters game. Probably could have climbed quite easily into Masters 3, Masters 2, and maybe in a couple of weeks into Grandmaster if I'd had the time. But I chose to end the project right there, and it really goes to show how easy games were when my approach was fixed. My mechanics, my macro, my focus, and micro were all better as a result of my approach. So what to do with this information here. This isn't necessarily news for a lot of you guys, but it's an important reminder of the importance of habits. Strong mental really often is strong habits and the development of those strong habits. And it's not necessarily lucky to have strong habits. Thinking yourself a complete victim of your circumstance is often a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're not all given the same opportunities, but it's really important that we make the most of the opportunities that we are given. Developing the habits that I have now when I am training properly took a long time. It took many years. On my path to bronze to grandmaster, I didn't flip a switch and all of a sudden had good habits. I tried to hard calm constantly. I got frustrated, got tilted. I didn't take breaks. I would grind for hours. I didn't have a good hero pool. And developing all those things to become more natural for me took a really, really long time. And sometimes when I got sloppy, it was pretty easy to slip back into old habits. So it demanded constant attention and focus to detail to bring myself back into the good training headspace. Learning, studying, and training myself into the habit was the most important part of my learning process, more so than even understanding the game. All this is being said is that mental toughness is a really dangerous concept, and it's often very misunderstood. I do believe that you can train yourself to develop something of a resilience and capability for hardship, to focus even in the worst of circumstances. I felt like even with this difficult training environment that I set up for myself, I wasn't near as angry or emotionally volatile as I might have been 5 or 6 years ago. However, it definitely hindered a great deal of my ability to perform. And a great deal of my ability to perform well when I do is the habit that I've formed along the way. And this doesn't just apply to Overwatch rank, but this applies to everything that I do in my life. Honestly, the important thing for me is being humble enough to admit that a lot of my personal strength with everything that I do comes from the habits and structure that I've trained. So I encourage you, whether it's Overwatch ranked, whether it's any game ranked, whether it's training, learning, anything, life, relationships, or work, that you actually apply yourself to developing the habits that make you a stronger person. Focusing on the mental toughness and the grit and just push through it is not just an old school way of looking at things, something that I'm very familiar with, but it's also a largely inaccurate way of looking at things. And if it really worked, then more of us would be successful at doing it. True success, true victory, true mental toughness is the maturity to know your own limitations and to develop habits, develop goals that help you to become better and more disciplined with the way that you're approaching things, even if it's starting small. This is obviously just a very surface level discussion on a very, very complicated topic. I just thought the concept of a coach that knows better doing all the wrong things and seeing the results would be kind of fascinating. And obviously the results were shocking even for me. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.